wealthier people were eating meat and vegetables, right? So the corn had very low levels of thiamine, but for years, nearly 50 to 100 years, it must be a microbe, and so on. HIV, the HIV, one of the biggest frauds that was done was saying HIV creates AIDS. Total fraud. And that's how Anthony Fauci built his career. But it's always been this thing about your body is weak, that germs will kill you. We're going to find that germ and we're going to vaccinate it or give you some pharmaceutical drug to protect you. That's been the foundation of this conventional medicine model. But it doesn't talk to the truth, which is a suppressed immune system, which is when you're depressed, when your system is offset with that disturbance, and that disturbance creates stressors, so your body is not functioning optimally. So what you do is you have a weakened and dysfunctional immune system, and your own immune system, and this is a central point, when your immune system is not operating where it should be, it's operating at some other point, your own immune system is firing not on 6 cylinders, maybe 1 cylinder, and that 1 cylinder overreacts. Let's say with cytokines, you've screwed up your innate immune system by eating too much sugars, you've depressed your macrophages, you've depressed your T cells, and your cytokines are the only thing. Your body only has got one little weaponry, and it starts firing it like crazy, like a mad soldier. And it starts attacking not only the virus, the glycoproteins of the virus, but attacking your own cells. And this
the autoimmune issues that we have in this country, right? So many different.
It's the autoimmune issues. Yeah, it's the autoimmune issues. But foundationally, and by the way, doctors don't know this. If they do, it's unfortunate that they're still practicing medicine the way they do. And this is where everyone needs to educate the doctors. Nice people, surgeons, by the way, they practice the military war medicine, very valuable if something horrible happens to you. But in day-to-day existence of life, I'm sorry, the MD frankly knows zippo about the immune system. And so if they did, they would understand it's a compromised immune system. And the discussion should move to, well, how do I boost my immune system? Well, there are many modalities. I mean, there's body work, there's what you put into your body, it's what you live around. All of these things can modulate how you boost up your immune system.
I have a question because a lot of our listeners and viewers who are on edge with this, I've been in practice 35 years as a chiropractor. We have a lot of what we call lifestyle care people living their ideal 100-year lifestyle. We have a network around the country, around the world. And what we are finding and what our profession has found for a long time, that people that kept their nervous system healthier, posture, good balance, good alignment, a lot of the words that you're using, similar words, that their body's immune system functioned better. They seemed less resistant, or more resistant to infections and viruses and things like that, keeping that balance of the nervous system. Can you talk to us about why, specifically from a neurological perspective, why keeping the nervous system balanced? I know you have mentioned to me that that you see a chiropractor periodically, and you're Jennifer, who I just spoke to, happens to see a good friend of mine, Dr. Rausch.
Yeah.
Talk to us about why that is.
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, I just published a paper about 2 years ago in one of the, what you would call the conventional great journals called Nature Neuroscience. And one of the things we did was we looked at every paper written on neurovascular diseases. Neurovascular diseases, you know, things from ALS to Alzheimer's. I mean, you go down the list, Parkinson's, et cetera. Well, those neurovascular diseases, there's more and more of an understanding that it occurs when there's dysfunction in a organelle in your body called the pericytes, which is what control flow of blood from your endothelial into your brain. But one of the important things that came out of that, we took, again, a systems approach. We looked at the anatomical components, we looked at the molecular systems, and then we layered in all the diseases. What you find is many of these diseases, Western medicine likes to call them different diseases, but they're fundamentally breakdowns in different signaling mechanisms in your body. Those signaling mechanisms are an interconnection of many things. It's not only the vasculature, but it's the neurovasculature, which means your nerve system. Now, this can get broken down in many ways. It can get broken down from, well, if you're living around glyphosate all the time, if you're living around, you know, horrible chemicals all the time, over time, that can start affecting that neurovascular system or that neural system or the vascular system. And we know this. So one of the important things to understand is when you look at the immune system, remember I mentioned it's not only the innate, not only the adaptive, the interferon, but you also have your gut microbiome and then your neural system. And the neural system is integrated to your gut microbiome. This is not a separate system. One of my uncles, who's a gastroenterologist, he'd say, your gut is your first brain, and your brain is actually your second brain. So these things are highly connected, and the neural system goes throughout your body, and it also integrates to your lymphatic system. So these things are tightly coupled systems. So how do you solve a problem? Well, if everything is connected, depends on where you want to come at it. You could come at it from, hey, I'm going to take vitamin D and A, which I think are very supportive, which I've talked about, but I can also come at it through body work, right? I can also come at it through supporting the neural system, because if there are things in your neural system that are off, that are not communicating properly, well, it's not like it just sits alone. Well, that system has a direct connection, to the other subsystems in your body, the neural system, the lymphatic system. All these things are tightly connected, your microbiome. So body work in particular, this is why exercise is important, yoga is important, getting, in my view, these alignments, because none of us is perfect. We all probably sit wrong at a certain point, or we stress ourselves out. These alignments are a physical way, but the physical way also has mechanical outcomes, right? Or chemical outcomes. Nothing in the body is basically what in engineering we call it a transducer, which means you can convert one form of energy to another form. So for example, there are things called piezoelectric transducers, or piezochemical. That means you do a mechanical action, which is piezo, it generates electricity. You do a mechanical action and you get chemical action. For example, the fascia. When you put pressure on the fascia, that physical pressure, your fascia transduces that to chemical reactions. This is why massage body work is so powerful, because it innervates a whole subsystem of chemical reactions, which affect all the way down to your cytoskeleton, down all the way to every cell in your body, and more.